All right, thank you for joining us this morning for the NCLA Technology and Trends webinar, Top Tech of 2018. You might notice that it is no longer 2018. We had this originally scheduled for December, and the snow that hit a bunch of us across the state made it pretty impossible for presenters to make it happen. So thanks for your patience if you registered last time around, and welcome either way. We are recording today, and this recording will be available afterward. I'll send it out to everyone who registered. I think we get a lot of people who can't necessarily make it right now, but do want to catch up later. So I'm Chad Hafley. I'm the Vice Chair of the Technology and Trends Roundtable at NCLA. I'll put my standard pitch here at the beginning. You too can join TNT for $5 a year added onto your membership. You can find out more about us at nclatnt.org, where we have archives of all our webinars going back quite a number of years at this point. And that's in addition to the link to this recording that'll be emailed to you, you'll be able to find a embedded version of the talk there too, sometime not too long after we're done here today. So the idea for this webinar was to get a bunch of people together and talk about some tech that we liked in 2018, and we cast a broad net for what that might be. So each of us today, myself, Sarah Arnold, Jenny Dale, and Julie Rayner, are going to talk for about 10 minutes about something we really liked, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. I am going to ask that you hold your questions until the end. And we can go back and revisit anyone at that point. If you'd like to join in the chat along the way, you should see a chat button in your Zoom controls, I believe, at the bottom of your screen, which will open up the chat functionality. Feel free to drop questions in there as we go, and we can revisit them later. I know as a presenter myself, I won't be able to keep an eye on it while I'm talking, but then I'll make sure it gets caught for later discussion. I can't think of any other housekeeping I forgot, so we'll dive in. I'm going to go first, and my tech tool from 2018 that I really liked using and I don't think got enough coverage is Zotero's integration with Google Docs in particular. So let me switch my sharing here to my desktop. And get out of my PowerPoint slide. Okay, so Zotero, if you're not super familiar with it, is a citation management tool. It lets you organize your citations, and then perhaps most importantly, the payoff is that it does all of the embedded citations for you in your documents later. So if you've never used Zotero before, I'm not going to do a full tutorial on how it works, but you can install it for free from the web. It works with Firefox, Chrome, Safari. I don't think it has an Internet Explorer integration, so if that's you, you're out of luck. But anything else, you are in business. And you install two pieces. There's the Zotero main software, which looks like this here, where you can organize all your citations. And then you have to install a browser plugin, which then it kind of sits in the background as you're browsing around the web and notices documents that you might want to save. So for example, if I'm on this journal article here, this little icon appears in the upper right of my browser because it knows it's an article. And when I click that, it saves it to my Zotero library here. It should pop in just a second. Oh, am I going to get to do live troubleshooting? Let's try that one more time. Maybe it's just still saving. Let's try a different document. This time it knows that I'm on a newspaper article. It's saving to my webinar demo folder. Or is it? All right, this might turn into a very different kind of demo very quickly. I'm going to close Zotero and reopen it. Oh, updates. So once it is here, I will get some citations saved into my library, and I'll show you what you can do with them in Google Docs. All right, we'll try this one more time. Believe it or not, this worked an hour ago when I was doing my run through. All right, well, we'll work with some stuff I've put in here before. I have no idea what's going on at the moment. So here's some other documents I've saved in the past. But you just know it does work with newspaper articles, with journal articles. It'll pick up YouTube videos like our fine webinars that you can add in there. So it watches some context in the background and works with more than you'd expect on the web. And for years and years, then Zotero has worked well with Word. Once you've got the Word plugin installed, you get the Zotero section up here. As you're typing your document, you can add citations, pick your format. It works with literally any format you can think of. There's an integration with Zotero for it. Then I get a little search box to go through my library. I like switching to the classic view personally. I can find the thing that I want to cite. I give it a page number. And you can see it handles the citation for me. Same deal when I want to add another one. And you continue your way through your document, and then when you get to the end, wherever you want your works cited list to appear, you just click this button here, and it looks through your paper, finds all the stuff you used, and alphabetizes it or whatever your citation style requires. So that's great. That's not new. It's worked well in Word for a long, long time, but not everyone has Word. Not everyone uses Word. It also works in OpenOffice, but I think that's another thing that very few people use pretty regularly. But in 2018, Zotero added integration with Google Docs. So once you have the Zotero plugin installed, so once you start seeing these little icons in your browser, and this is any browser that Zotero works in, Safari, Firefox, Chrome, there's nothing else you have to install. It just works in Google Docs, which is great. So once you've got that installed, you might have noticed or might not have noticed this Zotero section of the menu appears with any Google Doc that you're in. And it works pretty much exactly the same as it does in Word. I put the cursor where I want my citation to appear. I click Zotero. Oops. I just, instead of icons, I get some text links. Same thing again. I can look through. Find my citations. You might get a couple of system warnings. Edit that in. Put my next citation. Zotero add. Pick my next one. Add my page number if it's relevant to the item you're citing, and there you go. And so this is kind of anticlimactic in some ways because I already showed it to you in Word, but when I get to add my works cited, again, it looks through my document, finds all the things I used, drops them in. You might get some font mismatches in a little bit, but that is the only roughness that I've found in the Google integration with, or the Zotero integration with Google Docs, which is really, really neat. So in this case, I think I would just have to change my text color to match, which I probably should be using black text to begin with anyway. And then this is not unique to Google Docs, but I just like to show it because it shows you the power of Zotero, where you can go into your document preferences at any time and say, well, I don't want to use APA anymore. Turns out I should be using MLA instead. Switch it over. And it goes through and reformats everything for me. If I decide I need to edit that citation, like change the page number later, I just click anywhere in it and I get this little pop-up, edit with Zotero. And I can make changes to it here. Change my page number to 7. There we go. And that is really about all there is to it. A couple of kind of housekeeping tasks around it. Now, if I were to share this document with you, that's maybe one of the biggest things about using Zotero in Google Docs over Word is you can't always have the options to share a Word document and collaboratively edit it with someone unless you're an Office 365 subscriber. So I could invite anyone to edit this document with me now, and even if they have not installed the Zotero extension in their browser, they will still see all of my citations here. They won't get the edit with Zotero option, of course, but they'll still see everything printed just as it is here, which is really, really nice. So you don't have to walk anyone else through the hoops of installing it. If you and your collaborator also both have Zotero installed and are both using it at the same time, doesn't matter, it works well. You can both insert your own citations. I think there's restrictions on, you can only edit the citation of something that's in your library, which makes sense. But other than that, it really just plain works. But then when you're done, there's always this unlink citations button, which is gonna warn me before it does anything. Oh, a live demo strikes again. Oh, there we go. So this will remove the field code. So if I proceed with this, it just turns into a plain text document at this point. So this is just text now. It's no longer linked to Zotero at all. So if you're concerned about sharing a document with someone as a final copy or something like that, where you don't necessarily want them to see all those edit prompts, you just do that before you send it off. Just keep in mind it is irreversible. I can't go back and turn these back into Zotero editable citations at this point. All right, I'm gonna fix this font color just because it's driving me crazy. Oh, font color, where are you? Oh, more live demos. I should have not gone down this rabbit hole. All right, well, that is the next thing I would do. Would fix that font color. It's probably staring me in the face. Ah, there it is. Everything black. Much better. So that's Zotera's integration with Google Docs. I think it's really cool and is kind of unsung. There's some documentation about it on Zotera's site if you really want to know more about it, if there's any limitations or things like that. But in my experimentation with it, it has just worked, which is rare in a tech tool, which is one reason I bumped it up my list for 2018. So it's a small thing. It's really kind of an iteration on the awesome product that is Zotera to begin with, but I've been really pleased with it and used it a number of times last year in collaborating with other people. So I believe that's the end of my spiel. So with that, I will turn it over to next in line, Sarah Arnold. And I'm going to stop my sharing. If I can figure out how. All right, Sarah, I will unmute you. And
can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Great. And you should be able to share at this point.
Okay. All right, can you all see that?
Yep, I see your title slide.
Awesome. So I am Sarah Arnold. I'm the content strategy librarian here at UNC Chapel Hill with our user experience and assessment department. I actually have a few tools I wanted to highlight today. They're all related to accessibility for the web. That's become kind of a big part of my job is assessing our library website and online tools for accessibility. So I figured I would share those tools with y'all. And before I get too far into the tools, I did want to do just a brief introduction to accessibility, just in case you're not familiar, and give you a couple of resources that you can look at. And that last slide, I also have more resources if you're interested in learning more. So first, defining accessibility. This is just sort of how I define it and how I've come to think about it. It's an absence of barriers to anything. A couple of years ago, I attended a global accessibility awareness day event, and one of the speakers there kind of had us think of a student who is blind and what would happen if you give that student a traditional print textbook versus if you gave that same student a textbook and like an e-version that a screen reader or a braille reader could sort of translate for them. And so there's sort of this difference of barriers, and technology can really help move us forward. And so with that same sort of student in mind, once you remove barriers, which is anything, websites, textbooks, tools, they can lead that student or that person on to success, independence, and so on. So it's important to kind of think of it in that way. And I also see this as a leadership opportunity for libraries, just because we do have so many resources and websites and tools and things that students and researchers and faculty all need to be using. So it's a great opportunity for us. And with accessibility, whenever you talk about it, there is always laws and guidelines, kind of the legal underbelly of it, so to speak. And I'm not going to go into those too much. There is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, WCAG. It's just a technical standard that's been sort of accepted internationally. And some of the tools I showed today, we'll talk about those or use those guidelines. And then there's also Title 29 of the US Code, which also kind of colloquial, or AKA Section 508 is just a federal law. And there's many other sort of guidelines and laws in play, and many have been updated, but there are some links at the end of this presentation that you can use for more information. But it's important just to keep that part of accessibility in mind. So the first tool is Wave, and this is an automatic accessibility checker that uses those web content accessibility guidelines that I mentioned to just sort of find and highlight issues. Most of you may be familiar with it online. You can go to that URL in the second bullet point and paste in whatever web page you want to test, and it will present some findings. But there's also extensions for Chrome and Firefox, which I've found super easy to use and just even nicer, because you're on your website kind of poking around and you can click and turn Wave on and see right away what's happening. And I'll do a quick live demo, but before I do want to note there are tons of different automatic checkers with extensions like Wave. The thing about them, or the downside of them, is they only catch about 25 to 29% of issues. So it's good if you're just getting into testing web accessibility to use things like this, but keep that sort of piece in mind, that it's not going to catch everything, but it will be a good sort of stepping off point for you. So let me pull up my web browser. So I've already run Wave. This is Chrome on an Apple or Mac laptop. And this is what the Wave sort of extension looks like here up in the top right corner. It can be a little slow
Sarah,
sometimes.
sorry to jump in. We're still seeing your PowerPoint slide.
Oh no, let's see.
I think you may have to toggle the sharing over to the browser
New
window.
share. What about now?
There we go. Now I see the browser.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So this is my web browser in Chrome, and this is what the Wave kind of icon looks like. It's a little kind of light green, if you can tell, because I've already toggled it on. And as I was saying, it can be a little slow, so that's why I've gone ahead and run it in advance. Whenever you do it, you get this sort of summary that shows you kind of what's wrong or what errors or alerts to be aware of. And then what I love about it, it also shows you what you're doing right, which can be kind of, or make you feel good about yourself, basically. So the next tab, Details, is going to kind of give you specifically what's happening. And I like this again because it gives you the opportunity to start to sort of piece together what the guidelines are saying and what's expected and what that actually looks like on a web page. So if I click this first linked image, missing alternative text, it's going to jump me right down the page and show me where that is. And I can just start to sort of understand, okay, so alt text, it's with this image, and then be able to fix it and so on. And the alerts are kind of the same way. If I want to know more, these little blue eye icons will take you to the documentation tab. So if that was maybe too quick, but it jumped me to that third tab and will tell me what this means, why it matters, how to fix it. And then there's always links to more resources which are really great. And the last little piece of it is the outline tab. So this just gives you an overview of the structure on your page, and I'll show another tool that does something very similar. But it's good just to kind of know, what your headings are looking like or different sorts of pieces on the page are looking like. But so that is Wave, and you can just, with the extension, toggle it on and off on any web page that you're on. So let me jump back to my PowerPoint. And I do have a couple of screenshots in this presentation. I wanted to do the live demos, but there is sort of a resource for later if you want to check it out. So the next tool is called Web Developer Toolbar, and it's again available as an extension for Chrome and Firefox. It isn't just for accessibility, it kind of does just tons of stuff. I actually haven't explored everything that it can do, but it does have some built-in pieces that help with accessibility and can kind of give you a nice quick overview, almost similar to what Wave or an auto checker will do. But if you're just wanting to, double check that someone's added headings to a page or added alt text, this is a tool I would recommend trying out. And I will again switch back. There it is. So switch back. So this is just another web page on our library site. And let me show you. So this little kind of cogwheel is what the Web Developer Toolbar looks like. And when you toggle it on, as I mentioned, it does a ton of stuff. The main sort of pieces related to accessibility that I've found really helpful are here in the Outline tab. You can outline your headings. And headings should be sort of adding structure to your page, almost like an outline or research paper, so things are kind of grouped together. Users of screen readers can kind of navigate using these headings, so it's important that they kind of follow a certain order from H1 to H2 to H3 and so on. So I've gone ahead and toggled this on, and I recommend using the show element tag names, just because you can kind of right away see, okay, there's the H1, there's the H2, and so on. But these are just really kind of nice, quick tools. It's the only tool I found that will actually throw in what it is, like the H3 or H2. So it's really a nice kind of feature to have. The other, if I go to the Images tab, I can display alt attributes. So again, images need to have alternative text in order to be able to kind of provide that extra content or purpose of the image on the page for those using assistive technology like a screen reader. And so as you can see, these all have alt text. And it's nice just to kind of see exactly what that alt text is right away. I don't have to dig into the code or do inspect mode or anything like that. I can just kind of see it in conjunction with the image itself. And the last one for this tool is under CSS. You can disable all styles. The reason you would want to do this is to really kind of dig into the guts of your page and see what order things are coming up in. Screen readers cannot see this sort of pretty page with the images and all of this. They just see the code. And so when you disable all of your styles, that's essentially what you're doing. You're just stripping everything away and seeing exactly what's underneath and what order it's coming up in. So I can see sort of our navigation or our skip navigation, and then our navigation would come up followed by the content of the page and so on. So it just kind of gives you a quick little view into that without really having to jump into the code. Yeah, I found this to be a useful tool. So the next one, I'll switch back to the PowerPoint again. Again, there are some screenshots just for reference later. So the next tool is Paciello Group's Color Contrast Analyzer. And this one is not an extension, it's a standalone application for Macs or PCs. And what you can do is just sort of quickly check color contrast on the web or in print documents. It kind of is very flexible that way. I've included these guidelines, and you don't really have to memorize the guidelines per se, especially if you're using a checker like the Color Contrast Analyzer. But it's good to just kind of keep in mind that these guidelines exist, and what it is just making sure the contrast between your text and background can be read reasonably by someone with moderately low vision. And it is available as a free download at that URL. So I will stick with my slides this time. So this is just a screenshot of the Color Contrast Analyzer. You can see we've got our Carolina Blue heading, which Carolina Blue always kind of presents issues, but it is able to pass for large text. And so what this bottom part is doing is just kind of showing me I couldn't pass AAA, but level AA, which is kind of the standard to reach for, I'm passing with large text. And this little sort of circle here is the eyedropper tool, which is what I have found to be probably the most useful piece. You can just kind of hover over any text or background color and figure out what it is, even if you don't know what it is or don't feel like digging into the code. So that's where, like with a print document, that can come in handy. But there is also a RGB slider, and you can manually enter in hex codes if you know those as well. So the last kind of tool or group of tools, if you've done these different sort of things with the auto checkers and the developer toolbar and you want to do more, screen readers are the sort of next place to go, I found. And basically what you can start to do is learn how to use one. So NVDA is a free one available for Windows, and it's open source. And I've started to learn it, but also VoiceOver, which is if you have an Apple or Mac laptop, it's just built in, even to actually iPhones and things like that. There is JAWS as well, which is not free. It's very expensive, but NVDA is a good sort of starting point to get into using screen readers. But I've found I like to use this in trainings, and we'll show this to some of our librarians who have been using our website for years, but with the screen turned off and the screen reader reading out loud, or and even they will get lost. So it's a good sort of way to develop empathy for someone whose experience on the web may be different from your own. And so last but not least, some resources, and I can make sure these slides are available so you can get the links to all of these things. And yeah, that is my presentation, and all of the kind of fun accessibility tools you can get into to start assessing your sites.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And next we have Jenny Dale. Jenny, I just unmuted you, and you should be able to use the sharing options at the bottom. Jenny, I don't know if I'm the only one hearing this, but your voice is pretty scrambled. I can't quite make it out. It sounds like it's sped up way high. It's very strange. Let's see, I think she might be reconnecting. All right, Jenny, are you there? It's still sounding scrambled. It does sound exactly like the chipmunks. Okay, I think maybe we'll give you a chance to get that ironed out. And Julie, if you don't mind us jumping ahead to you. Okay, Julie, you're unmuted now and should have screen sharing controls.
All righty. Where are we? I think that's what I need to do. Okay.
There we go. I see your lip guide. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Rayner, and I am at the High Point Public Library, and I am also the Chair of Technology and Trends. So as Chad said earlier, join up if you aren't a member already. But I have two resources I'd like to share with you today. Both of them are things that I have come to find are incredibly useful as I am constantly making flyers, promoting services, that kind of thing, and trying to follow the guidelines of more visual aspects of promotional materials for our services and programs. So I'm constantly on the lookout for images, that kind of thing that I can add in to promote our items in a eye-catching way. But I'm also trying to be responsible, and I want to use images that are free and available for us to use. So there are two resources that I've been using. One of them is this Creative Commons search. And from this, you can see at the top that they now have a beta version, which wasn't available when I was using this in the fall. So this is brand new. So I haven't explored that a whole lot. So I'll mainly talk about this current version that you see in front of you right now. One thing to note is for this one, it's sort of a starting spot. You know, if you have a search topic, if you have an type of image you're wanting to find, you can type that in the search box and you will choose which resource you want to use. So if you want to look in Google Images, if you want to use the Pixabay, and it all is based on what kinds of images you want to get. You can also see on there that you can access other media, music and video as well, from a variety of sources on here. So I have been just searching for things that I would search for a display or a flyer, that kind of thing. And one spot I've found I had a lot of luck with is the Pixabay. You just, once you've typed in this search box and you click on the resource, it will bring up images that match your search. And you will also, these images should be, and this in particular is just some really artistic, I think, you know, great additions to any type of a promotional document. So you can see a wide variety of photographic images. And most of these are freely available for you to use. That's the whole point of the Creative Commons, but there's a disclaimer, and it's something good to keep in mind as you're looking for these, is you always need to go in and check to be sure, because some of them are free to use, but you have to put an attribution, so you would want to put a caption in or something like that to make sure that people knew where you had pulled the image from. So that's something to keep in mind with any of these resources. I'll check a different spot just to give you a comparison. So that was Pixabay. And let's go to Flickr. So you can see here that it already automatically has chosen for the commercial use and modifications are allowed. So you are able to use these in materials without fear of violating anyone's copyrights, but it still can't hurt when you go in to choose the image to make sure that you don't have any attribution that you need to do. So it's a wide variety of different things. They come from all over the place. A lot of them are just individuals that choose to share these images with, you know, the general public. So they want people to use their images. So that you can go in, you can create accounts for several of these resources too, so it can save images that you've used before and that kind of thing. See, I'm trying to think. If you click on one from Flickr, I think, and here you can just kind of right click and save it from there. Save it on your computer or in a file. So that gets back to the Creative Commons screen. And like I said, this is the guidance to go ahead and make sure you're checking the images as you go through them. Another one is just general. So if you don't want a photographic image, there is also this open clip art library that can give you more drawings, more of the traditional type of clip art that you might want to use. So this could be used for any type of library. And I can see like this little owl would be cute for a school library setting. Those kinds of things. I can see using that in something that I might do. So there's a lot of variety, and there's just a lot of options. And obviously some topics will have more than others, but it really makes it easy to find things that you feel good about using that aren't going to be the same thing that you see over and over again. But it's going to be safe for you to use in your promotional materials. So that is the Creative Commons search. And I invite you to try out this beta search. I just haven't gotten the full, scope of how that is used. The other one that I have, and I can send out these, the links to these. I can make sure that Chad has those to share with you. With the recording, but you'll also see it just up here at the top. That's the URL to get to that one. This other one actually comes from UNC University Libraries, and they have, this is an active page. It's a LibGuide, but it's an active page. I believe they've updated it in August. I like the way that they give sort of a starting point, and then they also give some recommended searches and then how to go about finding the licensing, because it's not always easy. And I will go ahead and I'll show you a couple of them, because this instruction has changed because Microsoft Bing has changed the way they do their the searching. And you can also see this has a lot of the same things that has Pixabay. So it has a lot of the same things that the Creative Commons does, but then it has a lot more. It's going to have some government historical photos. You can see over here on the left-hand side, it's going to have photos from the British Library, New York Public Library, digital collections. It also has icons, which, and a resource I didn't know about before this year, or 2018, was this noun project. So you can look for all kinds of nifty icons if you just need something to create a logo or something like that, that are free and available for anyone to use. It also has fonts. So if you want to get a resource on some new and fun fonts to use, this one is a good one as well. Let's see. And the one that I really like is they have this separate section for diverse stock. I know this is something that is especially important in the in publicity for libraries, is to make sure that we're using images of the that reflect the communities that we serve. So this has a wide variety of different options for that. So I appreciate the fact that they have included that as well. And I do know that this one it's good because it searches several different ones. So let's start with the every stock photo here. And for this one, I'll let it load up. I would probably recommend starting with one of their searches, because I tried doing my usual search and it wasn't as relevant as some of the other resources I've found. And you'll get to know that as you use these, which ones, which produces the most relevant search results, the easiest. So if we were going to do some tech related, I would choose this computer. And this is pulling images, as you can see, from several different resources, and that's just a few of them. It's taking a minute to pull up. And so the section on the left-hand side are all images that are free and available to use. They also include some Adobe stock photos on the right-hand side, which are fee-based. So if you see something over there, and if you have the means to, that you just love, and you have the means to do it, the fee-based are included in this resource as well. So it's a wide variety of things in that one. Or if you use just one of theirs, you can search on NASA and it just pulls up all kinds of great images. That would be great with the Apollo anniversaries coming up this summer, and the summer reading program is themed towards space. So this would be a great place to go for finding some unique images to use in publicity for those events. So there is that one. I'm going to go back to the UNC images page. Computer's being slow today. Here it comes. Let's see. Yeah, I did want to go ahead and show as well the noun project stuff. So if you click on noun project, and once again, you can create an account, and this is where I would encourage you to create an account, because that way you can save your images more easily, and it's a free account to create. And these are just individuals that have created these icons and are allowing them for folks to use, and there is a definite attribution expectation for these as well. But it's a caption would be enough underneath that kind of thing. And type in something to search for. So obviously, Valentine's Day coming up, all kinds of variety of different hearts to choose from. There we go. Okay, and something else I did want to show is this one resource towards the bottom is Unsplash. If you're not familiar with it, is it's a community of photographers that share their own work for general use, and I think it's great. I was putting in with the recent. You could get some really cool blood moon pictures from the crazy blood moon we had over the weekend. So, but these are, like I said, these are just individual folks that have shared these for you to use. And you can, if you're a photographer, I mean, there's also an opportunity to join the community and to share your own images as well. It's just a good starting point, and I encourage you just to kind of, if you're interested in this as a resource, play around with it, see what's going on, and I'll make sure that these two URLs are included with the recording, and if not, you can see it right up there. Okay, that's about all I had with mine.
Thank you, Julie. There are so many awesome resources there. All right, Jenny, let's see. Are you there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, you sound normal pitch and normal
Wonderful.
speed.
I put out an emergency call for a different microphone, and luckily I got one.
That seems to have done the trick.
That's right. Okay, excellent.
So you should be able to share at the bottom now.
I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay, so my name's Jenny Dale. I am the Information Literacy Coordinator at UNC Greensboro. I am a past president of Technology and Trends Roundtable, and I'm really excited to be in a TNT webinar today. And I want to talk about two tools that I used a lot in 2018. They are not new for 2018, but they are tools that I got a lot of mileage out of, and they are called Mentimeter and Socrative. I will go ahead and say right away, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing those right, but that's how I pronounce them, and that's how I will pronounce them for this short little tour. But I'm going to talk about how I use these two tools for learner engagement. So I'm actually going to ask you all to participate in one really quickly. So if you will go to open a browser, other than what you've got up with with Zoom, and go to menti.com, and it should ask you for a code, and that code is 620784. And when you get there, there is a question. And while you are doing that, I want to point out that Julie just inspired me. And if you see the little people around a table icon that's on this slide, that is a Noun Project icon, which Noun Project has some integration with Google Slides and Google Docs. And it's really nice because you can put in these really very high quality, alternatives to clip art. So just wanted to mention that, put that right into practice. And I'm going to attempt to open up the responses to see if hopefully my screen will stay. I'll see if this happens. Are you all able to see it, or do I need to do something to switch it?
Yep, I can see your browser now.
Okay, great. So I asked you, what's something you wish you knew about your learners at the beginning of a class or a training session? And I'm seeing a lot of themes that are common here, and the same kind of themes. I did sort of version of this for the librarians here at UNCG, and I got a lot of these same kinds of questions or kinds of statements. So I want to know what they already know. I want to know what their experience is. I want to know, how comfortable they are, if they already know things about this, what are their skills, what do they expect to learn, how hungry they are. you're not wrong. That is a pretty top-notch important thing to know. So these are all great responses. And I appreciate you playing along because, let's see if I can get back to, nope, that is not even the one I want. There we go. Back to my slides here. So what you just did was used Mentimeter. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about how I use them and kind of why I use them, and then just briefly talk about the tools themselves. So I primarily use these myself for open-ended questions or prompts at the beginning of a session. Almost all of my sessions are going to be for college students. I do some sessions for like local high schools, and I do training for other librarians, but most of what I do is going to be college students here at UNCG. And one of the prompts that I use all the time, that's one of my favorites, is I ask them to fill in the blank, kind of to complete a statement. And the statement that I give them is research is ... And I ask students to just fill that in with whatever comes straight from the heart for them. And I get a lot of very interesting responses. Especially first year students, I tend to get a lot of sort of definition responses. Research is finding information on a topic. Research is, and sometimes I get sort of more affective. Research is stressful. Research is boring. It's tedious. And then, I get a whole range. So I use this with graduate students, and one of the departments I work with is English. And so I pretty regularly get responses like, research is a beautiful garden, and we tend it with our searching and find amazing, wonderful things, which I love. I love to hear that, but it's nice for me to get a sense. But I also can start with something like that, or a question like, what do you already know about research? I can go ahead and use these responses to like activate some prior knowledge to see, okay, clearly a lot of people in here have used MLA before, or have struggled with citations, or had to do a big high school research project. I also try to use this to foster an environment of reflection, which is why I typically go for more open-ended questions or prompts rather than a survey. I'll do that as well, but I usually try to kind of mix and match. So I often will give students also a sort of, like if I use Google Forms, for example, a sort of check all that apply, what things have you done before in your, research background. And then I also use this because I do this right at the beginning of my sessions to encourage some engagement, to let students see that like I'm expecting you to participate, and there are different ways to participate, and some of them are more anonymous like this, but it's not just going to be a lecture. This is going to be, a workshop or a training session. So Mentimeter, the one that I just demonstrated, is a personal favorite of mine. I really like Mentimeter because I think it looks nice. So if you saw when I pulled up those responses, I like the way that it looks, and students that I work with tend to like the way that it looks as well. You can create a free account, or you can log in with either Google or Facebook existing accounts. One of the nice things is that with a free Mentimeter account, you do have unlimited presentations, which is what they call they're basically creating a slide for each question. So you can actually have a presentation that has multiple questions. I could have asked 4 questions in a row instead of just giving you that one. And that could all be in one presentation. All the presentations, and so their responses are automatically saved, and they can be exported. What I usually do with the free account, you can just export as a PDF, but that works totally fine for me. So I just basically get a PDF version of what's on the screen, and then I can clear out the responses and use the same question again, which is what I did today. I had used that same question in a training session here at UNCG. I downloaded and saved the responses, cleared it out, and started it fresh for y'all to answer. Open-ended questions, like I mentioned, those are the ones I use the most, but they also have 10 other question types: true, false, multiple choice. There's a really wide variety, and it's at mentimeter.com. If you go to Mentimeter, again, let's see here. You can go through some of the features and the pricing on their website. But this is something, if you have used Poll Everywhere before or any other sort of polling systems, I like this as an alternative because many of them have a limit to the number of people who can participate. This one does not. So unlimited responses, and also people can respond more than once, which is helpful to me, again, with those sort of those open-ended type questions. And I'll just show you what my presentations look like. So you can see that I've used it quite a bit with different classes. And I use it for things like, what do you hope to learn? Here's one. What do you hope to learn is one that I apparently used in a class and then cleared out. So getting to some of those things that you all mentioned earlier. All right, I'm going to head back over here, and then I'm going to talk about Socrative. This one's similar, but it is a little bit more limited. So you can create a free account again, or you can log in with your Google account. You get one active room, and that's the sort of language that they use to talk about a question or a quiz. You can have multiple questions, but typically, again, for me, I do just that, like a big open-ended question. You can run one at a time for up to 50 people. So for most of what I do, 50 is plenty. But if I ever want more, that's when I would go towards Mentimeter. And there's really no rhyme or reason for me as to why I choose one or the other. It's just kind of how I feel that day. They only have 3 question types. So I'm going to head over to Socrative, and I'm going to go into my teacher login. One of the things that's nice about this that's a little bit different than Mentimeter is that your sort of room, because you can only have one going at a time, your room name or the code that students put in is the same every time. So if you have like a slide that you use in a presentation that has the URL and your room name, that's never going to change. You can use it a billion times. Obviously, I can't put my password and type at the same time, so let me do that now. Or talk at the same time. So you can see here, their quick question options are multiple choice, true, false, and short answer. They do have a couple of options. You can do like a regular quiz, you can do an exit ticket, and they have one called a space race where students can kind of compete. Again, what I typically do is this short answer. So I might put in research is, and then click start. And then because, again, my room name is always the same, students can go to b.socrative.com/student and put in my room name, which is Dale8318. And then they will get this research is ... and they can say, you know, amazing and wonderful, and then submit their answer. So that's what Socrative looks like. So now you've seen both of them. Get this back up. One of the things that is nice about Socrative as well is that your results can be exported and they can be exported in multiple formats. It also integrates with Google Drive, so you can actually just have it saved directly to your Google Drive, which for me is nice because a lot of times I'm teaching in different like instructional labs or in different locations, and I may not want to just like save it to the computer if I want to be able to get to it later. So I can have it saved directly to my Google Drive, and then I can go back and look at my responses later. And that's it. Just wanted to point out again, since I used that icon from the Noun Project, I made sure to put that on my credit slide. As Julie mentioned, we want to give attribution to these nice, wonderful Creative Commons things that we use. And that's it. So I will go ahead and stop sharing.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. We have about 5 minutes left. If there's questions you'd like to ask for any of us, you can drop it into the chat there, or if you're feeling brave, you could try unmuting yourself and say hi. I don't think I missed any questions in the chat along the way. But if there's something I overlooked, please let me know.
I forgot to mention, with being, Stephanie mentioned The main difference with the new Bing now is previously you could choose your licensing before you did any searching. Now it doesn't let you choose your licensing option until after you've actually submitted the search. So you put your subject in and then choose search, and then it lets you filter down to the licensing type that you want. So if you've used Bing before, they've just switched the order on that.
That makes sense. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for coming, spending this hour with us today. Again, the recording will be available via a link I'll send out to everyone who registered, and we'll put it on our website pretty soon at nclatnt.org. So say goodbye to 2018, hello 2019, and keep an eye on cool stuff you see this year, and maybe we'll do this again another time. Thanks, everyone.